What would happen if women had the power to run the world? Would the world be a better place? These are questions Gioconda Belli and Naomi Alderman address in their novels, The Country of Women and The Power, respectively. As an alternative to patriarchal and or corrupted societies led by men, both novels depict worlds run by women that dismantle the existing order. These societies rely on different types of power to function, political power being one of the main ones. But their approach and or ideology to govern differ greatly. Michel Foucault argues that power is not static, for power spreads, circulates among people, who are always in the position of simultaneously undergoing and exercising power. It also generates power relations between individuals and sites of resistance. For him, according to Elizabeth Gross, power is not possessed, given, seized, captured, relinquished, or changed. Rather, it is exercised. It exists only in actions. It is a complex set of ever-changing relations of force. Using Foucault's views on power as a starting point, I will analyze how both narratives explore the nature of power, how it operates, and how it is exerted over others by offering two contrasting views. One that encourages happiness, freedom, and equality through pacifist and conciliatory practices, and another that justifies the use of violence or the threat of it to reach similar goals, but for the benefit of women only. Whilst Belli's utopian novel advocates for social change in the form of the seemingly radical but successful experiment of giving women a leading role in politics and decision-making, Alderman's utopian/dystopian novel reverses the balance of power by giving women an organ of electricity and the ability to physically hurt others. In Belli's novel, women seize power by means of a feminine political revolution based on embrismo, maternalism, and happyism as its foundation. I will explain these terms in a moment. Belli's novel depicts a utopian space created by the women of the party of the Erotic Left, PIE in its Spanish acronym, a group of women who literally and metaphorically want to cleanse Fawas, a small third world country where poverty, illiteracy, and machismo are common. The narrative contrasts the country's previous corrupted and male-dominated governments with an original and unprecedented alternative, a women-only political government and party. The protagonist, Viviana Sansón, realizes that she needs to seize the political arena, historically a predominantly masculine space, because as she states, to actually bring about change, you need power. More than just occupying an almost traditional and almost exclusive male spaces in politics, the novel proposes a feminist approach. Viviana institutes a female power she calls embrismo, which consists in restoring femininity within feminism and exalting everything related to women. Female power, femininity, the female body, seduction. The word embrismo, a controversial neologism in Spanish, is commonly and mistakenly defined as the opposite of machismo, and thus used to discredit feminism. However, the term has a strong and positive connotation in the novel, for what these women want is to achieve gender equality and to eradicate the stereotypical, damaging gender roles that mostly affect women. The foundation for this female power relies on the figure of the mother. Viviana believes that the same qualities that have subordinated women to their homes, their private spheres, are the ones needed to take care of the country. Faust needs a mother. It is not surprising that the figure of the mother becomes a central symbol in the political context of Faust, and the notion of mothering, the core of the party's political campaign. For in the Latin American context, ideologies and discourses that exalt women's capacity to mother and nurture can either exclude women from the competitive, corrupt world of politics, or shape demands for women's political inclusion. A feminist ethic of care is also implemented and encouraged by the women of the PIE to become cuidadanos and cuidadanas, caretakers of the motherland. The concepts represent a play on words with the Spanish words for citizens, ciudadanos, and caretakers, cuidadores. That is, people become both citizens and caretakers of their country. Taking care of the country implies both a personal and a public responsibility. To achieve this, the PA introduces a comprehensive reform to change the way in which economic and social forces before our time organize our lives. This includes not only changes and improvements in the educational, democratic, and labor systems, among others, but also the temporal removal of all men from government positions, including the police force. At the heart of Viviana's and the women of the PS vision lies an ideology they call Happyism, which draws some of its principles from socialism. Becoming happy implies an ideological transformation in society. Happiness, as defined by the women of the PA, refers to a state where essential needs are met and where men and women in complete freedom can choose and have the opportunity to make the optimal use of their innate and acquired capabilities for their own benefit and that of society. In addition to basic human needs such as food and potable water, the women of the PA consider safety and stability essential to achieve a state of happiness. Therefore, education, working opportunities, and an active role in community are key to their plan. To become happy, FAWES needs to embrace transformation and actively participate in processes of change. On the other hand, in Alderman's novel, women seize power by means of physical violence, or more importantly, the threat of violence. Like Belli, Alderman also introduces a specific type of female power, a power that comes directly from women's bodies, who have now an organ of electricity, or skein, capable of generating electrostatic power. As a result of this newly found power, which men do not have nor can emulate, the balance of power in the world is starting to shift. Although the use of physical violence becomes the initial source of societal transformation, the skein acts as a conductor of power, giving women the opportunity to seize other types of powers, and it is through these that women change the existing order of things in the world. Power circulates, spreads, and is mainly exercised through three traditional accepted social institutions and legal systems: political, military, and religious. Foucault argues that power doesn't require physical violence, for it resorts to other types of mechanisms and discourses to be exercised. However, in the utopian/dystopian context of the novel, physical violence is what paves the path to other types of power. Three of the main female characters, Margot Clary, Tatiana Moskalev, and Ali/Mother Eve, use both their physical power and political, military, and/or religious power to achieve their own goals. Margot, for instance, progresses in her political career thanks to the accidental use of her physical power in a political debate, but also exercises her political power to create the North Star camps, which train and take control over an army of women that is later used and sold as mercenaries. Margot's actions grant her important political positions, but she becomes corrupted by power and ambition, and ends up imitating former political models. Similarly, Tatiana, who takes justice into her own hands, uses her physical power to kill her husband, Moldova's president, and then her political power to create a women-only republic and to modify the existing legal system. But like Margot, she is blinded by power and becomes a tyrannical leader. She uses a legal framework to justify the use of violence towards men, as it once justified the use of violence against women. And by reversing the balance of power, men become the victims in her regime. Finally, Ali, in her new role as Mother Eve, takes advantage of her physical power to bring together women under a new system of belief, whose central figure is a female god. Like Like Margot and Tatiana, Mother Eve uses her religious power to control the masses and subjugate the inferior, men in this case, and proposes a world run by women. Ali turns her religious congregation into a militia and commands them to destroy humankind so that they can start over, only this time with women in power. Unlike Belli's more positive view on power as the means to generate social change, Alderman's power reversal pattern provides a less optimistic view on power, suggesting that regardless of who wields it, power corrupts people and inevitably leads them to oppress others. So is a world run by women a better world? Belli and Alderman's novel challenge patriarchy by depicting societies where the balance of power has shifted and women have become the dominant gender, for they had always had the potential for power, but needed a tool or conductor to show that power. Whilst the women of the piece challenge patriarchal social constructs by means of appropriation and the use of feminine gender stereotypes as an empowered strategy for women, the women in the power use violence or the threat of it to revert those constructs. By giving women power, both novels emphasize the necessity for women to have spaces free from aggressive opposition, toxic masculinities, and normalized patriarchal structures. But at the same time, the novel explored the nature of power, its direct link to violence, and how too much power may corrupt and blind people and may lead them to imitate existing oppressive patterns. By portraying two opposing views of power in the form of a utopia and a dystopia, the country of women and the power remind us that power doesn't care who uses it, that it constantly spreads, and that it's never static. As stated in the Book of Eve, from the rewritten scripture in the power, the shape of power is always the same. It is infinite, it is complex, it is forever branching. While it is alive like a tree, it is growing. While it contains itself, it is a multitude. Its directions are unpredictable. It obeys its own laws. It is obscene and uncontained.